Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's show, the latest Texans draft rumors, draft visits, and everything you need to know ahead of the 2026 NFL Draft. We got you covered here on Texans Today. And speaking of the NFL Draft, I am still going for my goal to get to 50,000 subscribers by the time the NFL Draft starts. We are getting dangerously close. Only 882 subs away. Help me out by going down and hitting that subscribe button. You get free Texans content all year long. You help support the channel, and you join the #1 Texans community here on YouTube. So it's a win, 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 win. If you go down and hit that sub button right now, help us out here at Texans Today. All right, let's talk about the top 30 visits that we already knew, that we already have discussed here on the channel. Jalon Kilgore, defensive back from South Carolina. Adam Randall, running back from Clemson. Kadyn Proctor, offensive lineman from Alabama. And Kayden McDonald, defensive tackle from Ohio State. Those were the ones that we have discussed previously. I also did put out a video yesterday around Keonte Scott having a top 30 visit with the Houston Texans. Now, it happened right before I was filming, so I didn't get a chance to really break it down as much as I would love to, so I'm going to take time out of today's video to talk about Keonte Scott, because the speedy defensive back from Miami, formerly of the Auburn Tigers, I think he is somebody who had a incredible 2025 season, helping the Hurricanes make it to the college football playoff, and he is a speedster, right? He's somebody who at the Miami Pro Day was able to clock in at a 4.3 40-yard dash on multiple occasions. His coverage stats phenomenal from this past year. 69 nice completion percentage when targeted, 7 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. He also was all around the football, right? 2 interceptions. He also forced 2 fumbles, got 2 touchdowns, 5 sacks on the year. He was a do-it-all defensive back for the Miami Hurricanes. And, you know, that's something the Texans like on their defense is dogs. And Keonte Scott seems like an absolute dog. But the question that I've continued to get, and I got on yesterday's video, I've got it on Twitter a ton, is cornerback a major need? Why are the Texans going after corners? What does this mean for Kamari Lassiter? Why are we looking at, Martin Emerson Jr. and Keionte Scott and these other corners? What is the deal, Jeremy? Well, I want y'all to relax. I don't think Kamari's going anywhere. I think the Texans, they just want to tackle depth in the secondary and just add more players. It's not a bad thing to want more good players in your secondary, right? That doesn't mean you don't like the players that you currently have in Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. But I have a question for all of you, because I think Keonte Scott is going to be a second-round pick in this year's draft. So the Texans, they do have 2 picks in that round, pick 38 and pick 59. But let me know, would you be mad if the Texans went cornerback with one of their first 2 picks in this draft? So I'm talking 28 or 38. If they went corner at one of those picks, would you be upset? Let me know down below in the comment section. Give me a yes, give me a no down below. I'm going to kind of cheat with my own answer in this one. 28, I think I'd be a little sus. I'd be like, what are we doing here? Why are we taking a cornerback in round 1? Which, I'd much rather invest in the trenches if we're going to pick somebody in round 1, either a defensive tackle or offensive lineman in the first round. Pick 38, I'm kind of, I'm kind of warming up to the idea of that, right? Like, I think it's okay, especially if it's somebody who maybe is a round 1, round 2 grade that the Texans have on a certain guy. I would be okay with that. But don't think that it's just the top guys, because the Texans, they're looking at secondary players, not only at the beginning of the draft, but also later in the draft as well. Charles Demmings, who I talked to my guy Aaron Wilson today, and he said he did, in fact, say Charles Demmings was a top 30 visit for the Houston Texans this past year, played at Stephen F. Austin, and Lance Zierlein had a pretty good write-up on him, talking about what we could expect from him coming out of the draft. Demmings is capable of mixing into a variety of coverages, but is at his best starting from a press look. He has the hips feel to match route breaks and the speed to stay with routes as they unfold. His recognition and instincts are average from off coverages, and he can be a step slow to drive on throws in front of him. While Demmings lacks ideal play strength and he is not a firm tackler, his ball skills and man cover consistency could land him a roster spot as a future CB4 with gunner potential. And I think that's what the Texans are looking at here with Charles Demmings, right? RAS score, relative athletic score, 9.97, off the charts for him. A 4.4 40-yard dash was incredible with his testing numbers in the pre-draft process, right? And I think the Texans, the Cleveland Browns, there's a lot of ties between the Browns and the Texans. They actually recently signed former Texan Miles Bryant. This would be a Miles Bryant replacement, a special team guy, a back end of the roster, depth guy in the secondary. That's what you're looking at with Charles Demmings. So don't think the Texans, they're only targeting secondary early in the draft. They could go with one of those guys if one of their top guys falls, but they're also looking to add depth regardless of draft position, a la the top 30 visit for Charles Demmings. Let's go to more top 30 visits for the Houston Texans. Emmanuel Pregnon, he has been rumored and reported to have a top 30 visit. That top 30 visit has not yet happened, but there are multiple reports saying that Pregnon is going to have a top 30 visit with the Houston Texans. And I really like this kid all throughout the pre-draft process. He's I feel like he came into the process as he's a round one guy, early, or late round one, early round two. He's kind of been slipping as of late. I'm not too mad at that. I've seen a lot of mocks where the Texans take him at 59, and if that's the case, slam dunk, right? He was incredible for the Oregon Ducks this past year. He has a lot of versatility. He can play guard. He can play center. An 88.2 PFF grade. 0 sacks allowed this season for Oregon, only 1 penalty, and I think he was one of the main anchors of that Ducks offensive line. So if the Texans are able to get a guy like Pregnon, who I think could start day one, but for the Texans doesn't necessarily have to, right? Like he could maybe play center and battle it out with Jake Andrews, or he could maybe take a year, learn behind a Wyatt Teller, and kind of be that guy waiting in the wings to help out this offensive line. I think it's a win-win with Emmanuel Pregnon. And as you look at the Texans' current offensive line depth chart, after the free agency signings of Braden Smith and Wyatt Teller, the need to grab an offensive lineman in round one has dipped. But that doesn't mean the Texans are just not going to address that position whatsoever. I still think they're going to look to maybe add a couple players in the draft, get some more young talent in there. That doesn't really spell good things for Jarrett Patterson or Blake Fisher, but I do think they want some new talent along that offensive line. Now, coming up, the Texans have some top 30 visits with a pair of defensive tackles. They already met with Ohio State's Kayden McDonald for a top 30 visit. They're bringing in 2 more guys. I'll tell you who those guys are here in just a moment, but make sure you check out our shop today, chatsports.com/HOU shop. You can get these awesome Swarm Patrol t-shirts in the comfort colors, black or navy. I love me some comfort colors, and all these guys, they're going to be on the team next year. I know we were talking about Kamari Lassiter. He's going to be on the squad next year. So this is a perfect shirt to go out, wear with the homeboys. Also, we have our brand new Texans Today logo t-shirt. Shout out to my guy Arnold here at Chat Sports for designing it. I think he did an absolute fantastic job with our new show logo. You can get that in t-shirts today in black, in navy, and of course, I had to do it in the H-Town blue. And our newest shirt available on our merch website is our Will Anderson Jr. shirt. Absolute fire. I remind you, if you like any of these designs, if you think these are some cool shirts, help us out. Go and get the shirts today, because the more that y'all buy, the more that I'm able to tell my bosses, hey, we need some new designs. We need some new cool stuff here at Texans Today. And a lot of y'all have sent me some really cool ideas, so I want to make those a possibility. The way I do that is if I'm able to sell these shirts and show my bosses that y'all want more Texans Today merch. All right. Let's get into the pair of defensive tackles with top 30 visits. Christen Miller, Georgia defensive tackle, a behemoth of a guy, 6'4", 305 pounds, has been somebody who has been often linked to the Houston Texans this offseason. Obviously, played with Kamari Lassiter, and I'm going to show you a clip here in just a moment to show you how much Christen Miller wants to play with Kamari Lassiter, which I think is a really good thing. When you have guys who are very familiar with other guys coming out of the NFL draft process, it really helps the coaching staff, front office, understand the type of guy you're getting, the type of player you're getting. But Christen Miller was asked at the NFL Combine about playing with Kamari Lassiter, and this is what he had to say.
I'm not going to lie. Kamari Lassiter, he got a D-tackle heart. Like, man, he a man amongst man. And just like, I was just on the phone with Kamari yesterday. One thing about him, he never changed. He always the same. Everywhere you go, he got a mindset that won't be stopped. And just being in Athens with Kamari, he always held me accountable, and that's my brother. I love him. Got a lot of love for him, and I might be on his team. You never know.
I don't know if you caught the end of that. He said, maybe I'm going to play with him someday. Maybe he will play with them someday and play for the Houston Texans. But I would love Christen Miller at pick 38. Maybe a little bit of a reach at 28. But if he plays well, like who cares where the Texans draft him? To be honest, I think he is a fantastic player. This past season at Georgia, 23 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 16 pressures. And like I said, he is a massive human being in the middle that I think can really help this Texans squad out, maybe be a little bit of a run stuffer, eat up some blocks there on the interior, and play next to Tommy Togai as, a defensive tackle duo. I think he'd be a really good addition to this Texans defensive line. I see the vision with adding him to this unit, right? You re-sign Sheldon Rankins, you re-sign Naquan Jones, Logan Hall, I have as a defensive tackle, but he can also flex out to defensive end as well. The former Tampa Bay Buccaneer and former U of H Cougar Logan Hall, I think, was a really sneaky good addition to this defensive line. But there's still a need to add to the defensive tackle depth chart, and that's why the Texans didn't only meet with Christen Miller, they also met with Tyler Onyedim from Texas A&M. 47 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Prior to this, he was actually spent 4 seasons at Iowa State, but 6'3", 295 pounds. He's somebody who the Texans obviously have shown a lot of interest in because he's from Richmond, Texas. So I think they could have had him as a local prospect visit. They decided to bring him in for a top 30, right? This past season, as I mentioned, 2.5 sacks, 17 pressures, 1 forced fumble, 8.5 tackles for loss in the SEC. Those are some pretty impressive numbers from Onyedim. And I think the Texans, obviously, whether it's in round 2, round 3, round 4, they want to get more help in the trenches, whether that's O-line or defensive line. Now, I did see a lot of people online talking about, visits. Are they top 30? Are they not? It's a common misconception. If somebody's visiting, that doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically a top 30 visit. It could also be, a local visit, a local, prospect day for the Houston Texans, which means basically if they went to high school in Houston or they went to a college within a certain radius of Houston, they are able to bring them in, and it doesn't count against their top 30 visits, right? So there's a couple guys who they are, rumored to be visiting with the Houston Texans, but it's not going to be top 30 visits. These are those guys. Caleb Douglas, wide receiver from Texas Tech. Shad Banks, linebacker from UTSA. E.J. Smith, running back from Texas A&M. And it's funny enough, I actually think we might have the wrong E.J. Smith there, but it's all good. Son of former Cowboys legend Emmitt Smith. So running back legacy right there. Tyron Montgomery, who I've talked about a lot on the program before, wide receiver from John Carroll. Obviously a lot of ties with this Texans coaching staff. And then Tanner Koziel, tight end from U of H. And not only these guys, also there's a lot of colleges that, the Texans could invite prospects from those colleges. Obviously the ones that are, closest to the facility, Houston, Rice, Sam Houston. I believe Texas Southern also is on that list. Prairie View A&M are among the colleges that Texans, the front office, coaching staff, they can invite those guys out to the local prospect day. So just want to get y'all a little bit more informed, give y'all some information about this pre-draft process. I will say, shout out to my guy Stressens. If you need a good website to kind of decipher who's visited with the Houston Texans so far, I think his website, he does a fantastic job of listing all the Texans visits so far, whether it's Combine, Top 30, visiting at their pro day. I think he did a fantastic job with putting that together. Also, you want to check out more stuff that I'm putting out there, give me a follow on social media at Jeremy Chuggs on X, IG, and TikTok. Give me a follow because I'm putting out more content on those platforms, and my DMs are always open. So if you want to discuss anything I talked about today, make sure to give me a follow on these social medias and hit me up.